So welcome, welcome, welcome. And I do think this is such a beautiful space to really come together. And what I propose, and this is my little signpost of the morning, is to give a little bit of a presentation, give that sort of where are we now feeling, and just checking in with all of you with potentially where we are now. And then looking at the solutions, because one of the reasons for me thinking about doing this today was my recent visit to Peru. And the recent visit to Peru, I was talking to a lot of school teachers and a lot of coordinators and heads of schools as well. And it's something that I'm hearing more and more and more across the world. It's not only local to Peru, it really is something that we're all witnessing, we're all feeling. There's a lot of burnout, teachers, learners. There's a lot of frustration, teachers, learners, parents. There's a lot of tension, teachers, learners, parents. And there's a lot of blaming going on. So the question now is, how can we move away from all of that and really start to focus on solutions? Because we know the problems, they're there, and really they exist, they're real. And I think it's about coming into that reality and now moving together to see how we can then move into that space of solutions. And I'm not saying that I have the solutions. What I'm saying is that we are using things that are potentially helping a lot. And as we go through the presentation, we'll see what they are. Now, let's start with the great impact that COVID has. I'm going to say scarred us with, because we're not talking about it enough. We're kind of pushing it under the carpet, and AI is taking over as the topic. But I do think we need to really, really pay attention to this, because this is one of the key underlying issues. In Spanish, they have this beautiful word, which is secuelas. It's almost like, you've got the sequel, but in a negative sense, which are the scars, the consequences, the negative consequences from COVID. And from the research, we do see a lot of these negative consequences, the negative impacts on learning. I'm hearing kids of 7, 8, 9 with anxiety. The reason I'm shocked is because, wow, kids with that age already coming into anxiety, it's scary. I remember a couple of years ago, I did an online, a free talk with kiddies about examination stress. And there was a little kid from India who was really sharing his tension, anxiety, and stress at the age of 8. We've got difficulties in learning. Well, actually, I think it's not so much about difficulties in learning, it's about adjusting the way that we learn to the brains of today. And I think it's about taking away the negativity, because last week we had the webinar on ADHD, on attention. And I'm really curious how we can turn that around into not something so negative, but actually it's about brains getting bored, needing stimulation, and how we can turn that around to help people feel better about their brains of today. Even I have problems with attention. So it's how to turn what we are seeing as the negatives into more positive. Now, we see there's a lot of anxiety, mental health problems. There were impacts on aging, teenage brain aging, accelerated brain aging. And also we're seeing a lot of aggression, a surge in aggression. And again, it's not a local problem, it's a global problem. And may I suggest that the more that children and adults are not able to manage their stress, the more it is manifesting in aggression. It's normal. It's like the pot that's boiling over, and we're all at boiling point. So we know the problems. Would you all agree that you're all witnessing this? Just give me a sign in the chat box. Yes, we've got some yeses coming in. Lee, thank you for that. Any other yeses? I've got some thumbs up. Yes, brilliant. Virginia, yes, aggression. Yes, Bazirat, they get bored. Absolutely. Me too. I also get bored quickly nowadays. And it's not because there's something wrong with me, it's because my brain is stimulated, overstimulated. Messages, telephones, people, things to do. It's the overstimulation that we need to know how to manage it, not how to criticize it. Definitely, yes. Right, now, this is what we're seeing. Learners have changed. By the way, learners have changed. Kids are different. We cannot put them into the box of how we lived or even the box of 10 years ago. Kids of today are dealing with totally different issues that I dealt with, many of you dealt with even 5 years ago. Let's look at pre-pandemic to now. It's only 5-6 years. So kids have changed. And I have to say, I know I've said this many times, but I just want to say this to all of you. I personally admire the kids of today because they seem to have a totally different approach to life. If they don't want to go there, they don't. And they don't care. And actually, I find that quite admirable that they are strong enough to actually walk away and say no. But we're on the other side trying to help them to focus and come into things. Not only kids have changed, adults have changed. We've got business clients also struggling, too much overload, too much stress. So we've got a lot of frustration. Now, there's one thing also I think we need to bear in mind. Learners of today, let's call them eclectic levels. Because in a lot of topics, learners of today are picking up information from all over the place. They're picking up information from videos, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, their television series. There's a lot of information coming in. So I do think that sometimes they are picking up information that actually they know already. And what we need to understand is how do we deal with learners who maybe know some things? And that's where, again, turning the teaching around and asking them more, finding out more from them. Where are you with this topic? No matter what the topic is, finding out from them first. What do you know about this? I have this beautiful demonstration of a chemistry lesson. And I demonstrate about chlorine. I'm not a chemistry teacher, by the way, but I use this as a demo. And so I prep myself on chlorine. And the first thing I ask is, well, what do you know about this? Where is there chlorine in your life now? And then you can ask children, well, how many of you go to a swimming pool? What's in the water? How do you clean the house? What's in that? So just questions to arouse their curiosity and connect them into topics is absolutely essential nowadays. So learners have changed. Attention span, we already knew in 2010 with the goldfish brain. We know that attention span is different. Let's call it different. Let's take away the negativity. And of course, teachers today are struggling. They really are struggling. And by the way, it's not only teachers, it's the leaders of teachers, the team leaders, the coordinators, the directors. There is this big struggle. And seemingly teaching is one of the professions most at risk from the technology. And teachers are dealing with their own trauma. They're dealing with learners' traumas. They're dealing with parents' traumas. Even pre-pandemic, I was in Bolivia and we were visiting various schools and giving free talks. And we actually visited one of the most difficult, challenging areas of Santa Cruz in Bolivia. And the teachers there were very frustrated and very angry. And they were angry more than anything with the parents. But then when I actually highlighted, well, actually, those parents, firstly, they're probably only in their 20s. They're probably very young because they had children very young. And they're probably also traumatized with their own lives. So if the parents are traumatized and they have no idea how to help the children because actually they need more help maybe than the children, how can we blame the parents when they're struggling? How can we blame the children because the children are in that environment? So what can we do to turn this around so actually the children see you, the teacher, as that person who is accompanying them, stimulating them, supporting them, just holding the space for them. And that really made the teachers think. And I think it really helped them to change their whole attitude to the whole situation. So reality is hard nowadays, and teachers are shifting. Teachers are changing. Many of you, I'm sure, are already looking for the solutions. You're already bringing solutions. You're already changing the way you communicate, the way you deal with EQ and emotional intelligence. But then it's how we get this onto turbo boost, because there is still a lot of struggling. Now, if we look at all the problems, and I've put it into that sort of problems of practice, post-pandemic, teachers struggling to adapt, well-being at risk, surge in violence, adoption of AI, digital tools on top of everything. We don't know what is effective teaching. We've got tension, teacher, parent, and we've got tension, leaders, teachers. And by the way, I've just seen a spelling mistake. My apologies. I'll let you spot the spelling mistake and see if you're all awake at this point in the morning on a Sunday. So I think we all agree on this, that the more technology coming in, the more we are striving for the humanistic pedagogy and the shift in how we teach and how we can then bridge this technology versus human, how we can really be the complement. But to be the complement, I think that means we have to really increase that humanistic, that personal side of this. Oh, just checking in the chat box. Dr. Radke, thank you for that. Talking about trauma. Recent times are talking a lot. Yes, absolutely. Dr. Radke, thank you for that. No, I'm not trying to say that previous generations have not gone through their struggles. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. I think what we're looking at is differences in the struggles. This is the point, that where we are today is maybe different because of technology, because of the pandemic, and because of everything else that's happening in the world. So yes, I agree with you, absolutely. So we're really looking for the solutions of moving forward. And of course, trying to complement everything that is happening with the AI. So embracing the future, embracing the technology, Christina, yes, you're right. We have the breakdown of the family unit. Absolutely. This really is also key. And by the way, it's worldwide, the family unit. And I have to say, when I was in Peru, the one thing that was very clear for me is that they still have a lot of family unit support. So there are countries in the world where you do still have this compared to other parts of the world where you have a complete breakdown of family units. Yes. Lonnie, yes. Previous generations had anxiety. Yep. And especially that sort of nuclear threat. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you for that. Maybe one thing that we can all agree on is the fact that we have a lot of advancements in the world, technology, etc. But actually, educational systems are very slow to change. So the original sort of sit down and I'm the teacher and I'm instructing has been that sort of backdrop for many, many years. And I think now this is finally starting to change a lot. And we actually saw this already with key figures like Montessori, key figures like Dewey, Piaget. We also have Steiner, Waldorf schools. So we've had some indication of different ways of teaching and different styles of teaching through these last 100, 150 years. But now we really do, I think, have the tools at our fingertips to change so much more. And to really come into the role of being the awakener, the stimulator, let's say, the inspirer, more than the one who has the knowledge. And here I am to give you that knowledge. So, how do we transform? Well, I do think it is about a lot of training. For me, there are three major training streams. We've got the decade of the brain, the neuroscience, the brain-based, which you could connect with the heart science, where we have neuroeducation, mind, brain, and education. You've got all that sort of brain-based. Then you've got the emotional intelligence, obviously psychology, all of that research, emotional intelligence, psychology coming into that space, which is the mind plus brain. But we also nowadays, we have changing the way we communicate, professional coaching, trauma-informed communication, non-violent communication, and really the science of empathy and compassion accompanying it. So it's almost like we have three directions that we can harness to create the way forward for all of us, not only at school and in education, but also in our daily lives. It really is changing everything. It's changing how we manage ourselves. And believe me, everybody, if I had had these tools when I was a kid and I had grown up maximizing and optimizing my brain and mind functions, wow, how different life would have been. And this is the point. We can actually help children to grow up maximizing and optimizing their brains, their emotional intelligence, their communication. We really have those tools to give to kids nowadays. The problem is we need to start with ourselves first. And that's where we have to start understanding how all of this comes together. So focusing on solutions, we're moving away from the issues. We know the issues, but we're trying to come into the solutions. I mentioned this a couple of times, and I'm you'll probably hear me say this many times now. Apparently, the new intelligence is metacognition. And I just love this because we're moving away from IQ and EQ. Yes, we know IQ, intelligence, EQ, emotional intelligence. We could also add social, SQ, social and emotional intelligence. But now we've got the MQ, and the MQ is the awareness of self. This is the new intelligent today. To become aware of what's happening, what am I thinking, how am I talking, what am I connecting with, how am I reacting, how can I control that? And this constant mirror on ourselves, it is life-changing. And in many ways, we come into that mindfulness, being in the present. This is part of it, but it really requires training and training on ourselves. But then when we start to help others to do that, when we're asking the right questions, when we're giving them the mirror, that's when they start to develop their own capacity to self-reflect. So these are the key points today. And I do think it's about how we can now become the bridge from the neuroscience, from the research. How do we put that into the practice? Because we've got all of this research. We can regurgitate the research. I can sit here to high heaven preaching all of the research and the results. But the real question is, how are we living it? How are we manifesting it? How are we walking the talk? Because I hear so many saying, oh, this is in the research, but that's not what they're doing. And that's the mismatch that we have today. So our question as teachers, trainers, educators, how can we walk the talk? How can we really do what we're saying we're doing and be honest if we're not? Many ways to bring that metacognition, that metacognitive to the learners is opening up and talking to them about the brain. And talking to them whether they are little kiddies, teenagers, adults, whether they are nerds, simple minds, it doesn't matter. How do we help people to understand their brain, their mind, their reactions, their emotions, and then help them to manage those? So we need training. We need training on how to talk about the brain, about the learning, how to bring the self-awareness, and even how to be the provocateur of those neural connections. And I love that French sort of provocateur par excellence. That's what we should be. And in that way, we're also going to help them to optimize learning. And at the end of the day, we also need to be really honest, because from the research, we now understand that every single brain is different. Now that in today's educational systems really puts the cat among the pigeons, doesn't it? Because if you've got a class of 30 kids and they're all different and they're all really taking on a different perspective of life, of learning, and they absorb information in different ways, they perceive and interpret in different ways, how can we manage that? And more neurodiversity in the classroom. Oh my goodness, Agastya, I think I've just fallen off my chair. You've got 60 in your class. Goodness, I think you must go home and need herbal tea for the rest of the day. Wow. Or sit and meditate for the rest of the evening after you've been with 60 kiddies all day. And I really take my hat off to you for this. I really do. Wow, that's really flabbergasted me. I've never heard that before. Yeah, wow, 60 kids in a class. One of the major problems is the whole system cannot support that. And again, I put my hands up. I don't have the answers for that. And I think it's about us finding the answers. And it might be that we're reducing school time, but we're having smaller groups. So instead of having kids for 6 or 7 hours, maybe we're having them for 2 or 3, which are much more maximized and optimized and more efficient because there's smaller groups of kids. And by the way, I'm just brainstorming here on the fly. But definitely we need to be rethinking everything. And hopefully thinking in the lines of efficiency and effective teaching and learning. Now, from the meta perspective, we are, as we said, we're looking at talking about the brain, bringing the self-awareness and provoking the connections. From the communication perspective, we're very much moving into changing the way we communicate and bringing in coaching. Coaching is an effective communication tool. I call it the vehicle, the communicative vehicle. And we have had coaching in education for over 25 years, especially in the US. They've had a lot of coaching in education, but there's a major difference. These last 25 years, it's been about teachers receiving coaching and then going away and applying what they have received from those coaching sessions. Now we've got teachers becoming the coach. So they're no longer receiving the coaching, they are becoming the coach with the knowledge, the tools, and the skills of the professional coach. And they're bringing that communication into the classroom. So we're taking on a whole different persona. We're taking on a whole different style of communication, not only with the learners, but also with colleagues and with parents as well. And in many ways, what we're doing is we're breaking the expectations of the roles. So the traditional teacher-learner role, we're breaking that. We're becoming more in the role of partnering, accompanying, as we said, stimulating, bringing the self-reflection. So it is a different role that we have to come into. But again, it's us. We have to come into that role. We have to change the script. We have to understand how to respond, not in a negative, but in a vision motivating way. We have to move from the sports coach to much more compassion. We have to understand how to troubleshoot issues with coaching conversations, turning it around, getting them to understand, getting them to find their solutions. And really changing that way of communicating is key. And as I said, we're moving into this new role of coacher. Coacher who is literally changing the way that we communicate. Now, let me just go through this in a sort of a way that explains a little bit how we change communication. We do talk about active listening as a teacher, and teachers normally are good listeners. But when you go into reformulating back and taking the time to really stop your mind when you're listening and focus in to the other person and then bring in silence, open questions, bring in compassion when you need it, much more positive feedback, much more signposting. This is what we're going to do now. This is what we're going to do next. Much more provocation. How is that? What do you think about that? Well, what does it connect to? Or what could you, I don't know, stimulating their imaginations much more. It totally downtones or calms the learner in a different way. Now, the one thing as well that coaching communication does, it keeps them calm. And from all of the research, we know that when you have a learner who is stressed, nervous, anxious, or in a fight or flight state, they cannot learn. So, how can we bring out more curiosity? How can we keep them calm? And by the way, emotional contagion is real. If I come into a classroom nervous, stressed, anxious, on a very subconscious level, my learners are picking that up. So when we come in from a very calm approach, and we're not giving directives, we're not telling them what to do, we're really downtoning that with maybe some permission. May I? Could I? How about? What do you think if? And then we use questions that are going to stimulate them to think rather than just close them and lead them. That's going to be a much more efficient and effective learning space. Now, many people think that coaching is about therapy. It's not. When you come into professional coaching, it really is not about telling people what to do. It's not about giving them advice. It's not about giving solutions. It's about provoking. It's about soundboarding. It's about stimulating. That's professional coaching. Now, let's just go through this a minute, because obviously, as a teacher, trainer, educator, you are going to be teaching. You do have knowledge that you are going to transfer. But the way that we do it has to be in a very gentle, calm, stimulating, curiosity arousing manner. That's how we need to do it. And we also need to understand how to break it down. And I really mean break it down. And do a little bit and get them doing it. Do a little bit more, get them doing it. Do a little bit more, get them talking to you doing it. And that's also going to help them with the brains of today. So, compassionate conversations, unblocking negative emotions, we're also going to be troubleshooting. You know, there might be emotional triggers. You might have a learner who goes into a fight or flight. How do we calm them down? How do we recognize if they've gone into that state? We might have learning difficulties. We might have questions, how do I learn? We might have difficulties with behavior in the classroom. All of these types of issues we can solve through very calm coaching conversations. And once we finish with the theory, by the way, I'm hoping that some of you will come on, talk to me about the issues that you've got or you're having with learners or teachers or whatever, and that I can demo with you a coaching conversation. So we'll see how many demos we can actually come into. So there are certain models that we can use. A coaching model is a pathway through a conversation. And as a coach, we learn certain pathways that we can then use in certain situations. So if there is a problem or a dilemma, we could use this particular model, which is fact finding first, exploring second, way forward third. So it's a very clear pathway through that dilemma. What's the problem? What's been happening? What's happened? What have you tried? What's worked? What hasn't? I'm really sorry that you've got this problem. Then we go into exploring. Well, what could you try? What's stopping you? What's blocking you? How do you see the future with it solved? So you're trying to explore. And then when you've got the vision, how do we get you there? So moving your coachee, your learners away from the problem and into the solution. And this is the model that we use when we're teaching something. So when we're teaching, we actually go into this brain-friendly model, which is almost like a framework that we're using in the background. And the framework is signposting, placing them. Now we're going to talk about chlorine, everybody. And then we find out, well, what do you know about chlorine? Where is it in your daily life? And then we get them into a little bit of a conversation. Talk to me about chlorine. What do you think it is? And then what they don't know, then I'm going to add information. Okay, can I share with you? Actually, it's a gas. And actually, there's a slight color green to it. So I would give information and then get them talking to me. And all the way through, I'm going to be asking powerful questions. I'm going to be clarifying along the way. And that's the skeleton of the conversation when we're teaching. And you really can use this to teach anything. But the most important thing is that you're increasing the dialogue with the learners and you're getting them involved. Coaching is about involving. So more effective, we're not there to be that sage on the stage. We're not there to get them to please us. We're not there to be judgmental. We're not there to really, without realizing it, bring out negativity. We really are there to turn this around, make it relevant for them, bring in that sort of brain break, the breaking it down, bringing in the meta, and making it much more experiential and really bringing in the heart. I think it's a question for all of us, isn't it? How can we bring that back, the joy to learning? Not only for them, but also for us. Teaching is a joyful process. So is learning. And moving away from all of this negativity to bring us back into that space of joy would be phenomenal. So are we moving into a new way of learning, teaching, etc.? I'm going to stop the presentation here now. I'll come back to these slides in a bit. I'm going to just bring us all together here. And at this point, I would really love to hear from some of you about some of the, let's say, issues that you are facing. And let's see if I can then bring out some demos of coaching conversations. And this is exactly what happened in Peru. You know, the heads, the coordinators, they were coming up to me with problems, maybe with parents, maybe with learners. And just by helping them just to see it from a totally different perspective. And by the way, it's not that I don't have the solution to everything, but just by turning it maybe slightly around, they were already seeing their own solutions. So would anybody like to come on the microphone and share with me a little bit? Agastya, okay, do you want us to try this? Do you want us to have a little talk about your 60 kids? Yes, there you are.
Hi there.
Hi.
Namaste.
Wow, I think all of us want to absolutely speak
No,
to you. We really do. You know, it's like, wow. So,
this is actually a very common thing in one of the boards in India.
yeah,
So actually, I am a student teacher. I am doing my doctorate and also teaching in a college. I'm teaching mass media. Although
right,
there are 60, but usually half of them anyway they don't show up. So
right.
it's usually around 35, 40, but it's still obviously good amount.
Yeah,
So I face a typical challenge of, like they all go they all are busy on the mobile phone, they keep chatting while talking, or they talk to each other, or they suddenly go away out of the class, coming back again at their own will.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and so these are the typical challenges. And I would love to find a nice way to keep them glued or get attention to maybe at least for 5-10 minutes at a stretch.
Yeah. Right. So, Agastya, thank you for sharing that. Firstly, can I ask you what ages they are?
They would be around 18 to 20.
Right. Okay. So young adults
Young
busy on
adults,
their
yes.
phones,
Yes.
wandering in and out. You're dealing with it like Piccadilly Circus,
Yes.
where they're coming in and out like traffic.
Rebellious, yes. They
Right.
are mavericks, and I'm also a maverick. So two mavericks
Okay.
clashing.
Okay. So one thing that I'm curious about is what is their motivation to learn that topic?
So some of them would really want to enter the field of media and entertainment.
Right.
But as you said, they have a lot of information through the internet and other sources. So they not necessarily feel the need of a teacher. And coming to college is just for attendance.
Right. Okay. So what could you do that could stimulate them to create something that's going to be useful for their careers, where you could be the facilitator of that creation and nothing
Right.
else?
That is an interesting question. One thing, they always look at it, hey, can you give us some industry context? Because they are so eager just to get some contact. So they are, for teachers, they look the teacher as a contact person for the industry
Right.
rather than learning.
Right. So, with what they're learning, how about sitting them down and having a chat with them and asking them, what could you create that's going to be really something that could help you in your careers to become the big shot media, whatever, in the
Yes,
future?
right.
And
Yeah,
see, just having that chat with them and just seeing what could come from them as stimulating ideas and get them to really put down all of their ideas and then see if they can come into maybe like little teams where they go and create and then they come and present. And maybe there
right.
could be like a competition there. Maybe there's a little bit of an incentive to, I don't know, to give them some of your contacts.
Yeah, that is true.
If they're using you as the contact, okay, there's a prize, guys. The ones that win, I'll give you some of my contacts.
Yes, that is a very interesting idea.
How does it
And
sound?
sometimes I also, get this backlash that, hey, do not get over friendly. So they
You
don't want
don't?
to
Sorry?
do not get friendly or over friendly.
So that you're not friendly with them?
No, I am, but
Yes.
sometimes they feel that I am too over friendly, and they don't like to build a rapport with the teachers.
So they feel that you're too friendly.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm glad you are a nice, friendly person. Maybe you can share with them, this is part of emotional intelligence, and maybe in life in the future, the friendlier they are, the more they're going to have success in their jobs. Right. Agastya, how do you feel if you try that with them, have that conversation
Yes.
with them, and let me know after? what they
Yes,
come.
I am definitely going to do this.
Yeah. One of the problems we have today is that teachers, we really have to start giving them back their autonomy. And a lot of the time, they're bored, they're distracted, they've got mobiles, they've got everything to distract them. As you said, they're wandering in and out, and there's nothing for them to get their teeth into. And one of the things, really, as teachers and trainers, we need to get them into the vision and maybe get them to sit down and say, okay, in 5 years' time, as a media agent, where do you want to be working in the world?
Right.
What's your vision of your job in the future? How's it going to look? Create the vision for me and get
Yes,
them all to create that vision of their futures. And then maybe say, okay, well, how are you going to get there when you're not doing anything now?
right, right,
And you're all playing around now and you're all on your mobiles. What could you create now? And maybe one of those projects that they create now could also help them for their curriculum
right.
in the future.
Yes, that is an excellent idea. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Agastya,
Thank
let me
you.
know how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else like to share? Lily,
Oh, It's
how do I pronounce that?
no, it's Catherine. It's
Oh,
me.
Catherine.
I'm on a different account. I logged in on a different account. I have a student. He's just been assigned to me. I think he's in his mid 40s. I've been told he's not academic at all. He doesn't. It sounds like he's been forced there. He doesn't like exercises. I think he's probably a traditional French education forced to learn. And I think I'm now having to bring him into the 21st century. And trying to create something dynamic and unusual. That's so far my needs analysis. That's all I've had so far. I'd like to speak with him. I'd like to ask those questions, get him to feel comfortable. But I just thought I'd throw that one in the pot, if that's okay, as a
Yes,
as
with
a
pleasure.
example.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there, I'm sure you're going to do it. I think it really is going to be that honesty card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with him saying, okay, how do you feel about being here?
Yeah.
Really going into that motivation scale. Where are you on the motivation scale? And if he
Yeah.
says, well, I'm about a 2, I don't really want to be here.
Mm,
Thank you for being honest. And I'm hearing that there might be a bit of unfairness because you're being sent. You
mm,
don't want to be here. You don't want to do this. So I'm sorry to hear that. And then I would find out the reasons, what's the background, what's the reason for being there, then see if there is a vision. If there's
yeah.
no vision, again, the honesty card. Okay, so there's nothing to stimulate you to be here. So the
Mm,
only thing that we can do is find how to make the process
mm.
enjoyable, at least.
Yes. Yes. That's very helpful. Thank you. Yes, the honesty card. But I like
Absolutely.
the idea of the vision.
Yeah,
You're obviously doing English classes for something. So where's your vision? I
yeah.
think that's really good.
And imagine you're fluent, and what's it going to change in your
Mm,
life?
mm,
Where's it going to get you? How's it going to change anything?
mm.
And then with the process, what would you like to do that's going to make it enjoyable, fun, effective for
Mm,
you?
mm. Thank you.
And especially as you said, because of his bad experience in the past, it could be that sort of highlighting, the way that you work has nothing to do with that educational system. And it's
Mm.
really going to be this open dialogue between two adults to discover what's going to work for that person.
Yes, I like that.
Definitely.
The way that you work has nothing to do with the past. I think that's
That's
very
right.
relevant. Really, really relevant.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I did recognize you, but it was kind of like the name was throwing me. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's somebody, maybe it's a doppelganger. Maybe Catherine's got another person out there.
No, I'm on the wrong account. So sorry. I was just
It's okay.
desperate to get in.
It's
Thanks,
fine.
Rachel.
It's fine. Thank you. Anybody else like to jump on? with any school questions or relationship questions, parents, teachers. Dr. Radke, yes, please. Let me see if we can get you to unmute there. Go ahead. Oh, I think you're unmuted, but we're struggling to hear you. Dr. Radke, there's no sound connecting in here. I'm going to let you see if you can troubleshoot the sound, and I'm going to go to Hermione. Oh, hang on, I need you to unmute.
Can you hear me? Good
Yes.
day. Okay,
Thank you.
hi.
Hi.
I've got the opposite to the lady before me. I've got a very dynamic, motivated manager, and we work together. He's a big shot in finances, and his motivation is that I would like to come as competent I am in my mother tongue to my native English speakers. And I keep on telling him, you know, everything, and English is just a tool. Please give me something more, because he says, yes, I know, and he improves his presentations. I need to give him the aha moment to carry on. Next week, we're having our last lesson. Maybe he will, it's a lesson because it's from the education, at that education center in Germany. I need to give him something. I keep on giving him, but I need to get him in touch with his enthusiasm to move on, sometimes also without me, if the case is this.
Right.
Please,
So,
Rachel, thank you.
Yeah, and there I think it would be those open questions. You know, as you're doing that beautiful acknowledgement, you're really recognizing the progress and everything that's happening. But then it's really going to be, you know, well, what could help you to connect deeper into the language? And if he's saying that he really doesn't feel competent because he feels that in his native he's kind of, I would go into a little bit of compassion. You know, I'm really sorry to hear that, and move away from encouraging and more into compassion. Because when we encourage and say, no, 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 you're doing great, you're doing fine, that's not what he's feeling. It's a mismatch with his perception and feelings. So we really have to connect in and say, I'm sorry that you're feeling this way. I'm sensing you do want to do more. So the question now is how I can ask you stimulating questions that are going to get you to find your solutions to going deeper and finding more your path further into the language. And then I would ask open questions, you know, what could you do? What have you tried? What worked? What didn't? What would you be open to try? How could you expose the brain to more of this language? How could you immerse yourself in the language?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about those. Thank you very much. But you gave me more plethora of conversation connections that he can fly on his own. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes. And this is one of the essential, I would say, shifts of today. As teachers, we're very used to going into that sports coach, you know, the animator. Come on, yes, you're fine, you're doing great, I know you can do it. And that is a dissonance with how they feel. So when you've got a learner saying, I feel terrible at this, I can't do this, when we ignore what they're saying and we say, yes, you can, I can help you, that's not what they're feeling. So we really have to stop doing that and turn it around and say, I can see this is troubling you. I can see you're struggling, you're having a bad time, and I'm really sorry that that's happening. How about we talk about solutions here? And then again, get them away from the problem into troubleshooting. It really is important. Yes, Hermione, aligning with their feelings. Yeah, and thank you for that beautiful example there. Anybody else like to jump on? I'm not sure if Dr. Radke was able to bring in his sound.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
Hello.
alaikum.
I'm Dr.
Hi.
Dilnawaz. Yeah.
Yes, welcome.
One thing I'm adding here that the increasing trend of technologies is also causing the problem for teaching, because now the student also having so much technologies, use
Yep.
of their technologies. So especially for learning, they get different things from the AI, chat GPTs and others. So I
Yep.
think now for the teacher or coach, they must have more knowledge of the AI and others to make them more trending toward their knowledge. So I think the technology is on the one side for the student, and also for the coach is necessary to know about those new technologies. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. I don't know your name there. It says Infinix on the, yes. So thank you for that. And yes, I think it is about how we can harness those technologies. And it might even be that we're really getting the kids, the learners, the students to actually teach us. And this can be a beautiful way of flipped classroom, where we get the kids to go to research, to investigate, to check the information, maybe one AI with another AI, what's the answers there, what's the answers here, and help them and stimulate them to use it, and then help them to understand this could be useful information that you just go and research and you find out, but then what's the information that you need to embody? And that's something that we also need to be bringing to the learners. What is the information that they need to embody to be able to deliver themselves or apply themselves in their real lives? And what's information that's just useful to go and look up and find out? But flipped classroom is really great. And again, we're talking about giving the kids much more autonomy than we've ever done before. And they love it. They really do. Let's remember self-determination theory, Maslow's theory. It's all about autonomy, mastery. It's about belonging. And it's about realizing our full potential. And that's where we become the facilitators of that. We really harness their autonomy. We get them going and doing things much, much more than ever before. Now, on the other side, and this was an experiment that one of the Greek teachers that I was interviewing last year did with her classroom. And this is a fascinating one. When you're teaching your kids metacognition, it's about teaching them the awareness of what's happening in their brain. And what she did, it was brilliant. She actually said, okay, how open are you all to experiment with me? And the experiment was, we're all going to put our mobile phones at the front of the class. Me, the teacher as well. All the mobile phones at the front. And then we're all going to sit and observe our brains. And we're going to observe the urge to go to that phone and look and use it. And we're all going to be honest, and we're all going to start putting our hands up when we get that first urge. And then we're going to work through it. We're going to say, okay, well, how can we calm that down? And then we're going to be realizing that our brain is constantly wanting to go to that phone, to look, to play, to whatever. And that's when the kids start realizing, and she said the kids were shocked. And this is how you highlight addiction. This is how you highlight, okay, how do we manage the brain? How do we get the brain distracted into something else to forget the phone? How do we calm the brain down? Maybe with breathing, maybe with meditation. But you help them to start understanding what's happening and to bring the mirror to themselves. And those types of exercises are brilliant for metacognition. And I think in today's age, that's one of our missions as teachers. We're training or teaching our learners to manage their brains, to manage themselves, to optimize the way that they operate their operating systems. Fascinating task. Mila, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. How to deal with a kid of 10 years old who says, I cannot learn English, it's too hard for me. He gave up the learning in his third year of learning English. Mila, would you like to come on to the... and then Dr. Radke will try you again. Mila, are you there? Yes.
I am.
So you're saying that he gave up?
Yes, he gave up his learning in his third year of learning English. He's 10 years old, and he is not doing anything on his classes, on our classes. When I ask him, Milos, what's happening? What's going on? We talk outside of the classroom together. Do you have any problem? Tell me. He says, this is too hard. I cannot. Even though we are doing chunks, little bits of English at the time of a 10-year-old.
Right. Just checking in, what is his native language?
It's Serbian.
Serbian, right. Okay. I'm curious if he's had a bad learning memory along the way. That would be something.
He is not good in any of the subjects. It's very hard for him to memorize. I mean, he has some family issues as well. So,
Right.
combination of many factors.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting because, you know, we've all learned our native language. And so on a subconscious level, he's definitely able to learn because he's done that with the native language. And I'm curious how to help him to understand that actually language learning is not just a sitting and memorizing, it's actually an absorbing of the language as well. So I'm curious if he could find a video or a series or something that he's passionate about, and he just goes and listens to it in English. Maybe 2, 3, 4 times. And then he will probably start picking things up like he did with his native language. He'll start picking up patterns and picking up certain phrases, etc.
Yes.
And then, right, experimenting like that and really tapping into him and sharing with him, you know, it could be that he learns differently to everybody else, and that's fine. But it's how to find the way that he learns.
Yes, a good question. How to?
Right. And there I would say there must be something he's passionate about in life.
He is. He likes motorcycles. He likes cars and
Right.
these boyish things.
Right. So I'm sure if you get him watching a video on cars or motorcycles in English, see what happens. And ask him to do that. Ask him to go and find some videos for you in English and then to come and tell you about them.
Yes, I'll try.
And
Thanks.
just see if that's a way to connect him in, Mila. And let me know.
I will. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Radke, let me see if we can get you on the sound. I think, is Dr. Radke still
Am
here?
I audible?
Yes, 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 yes. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
So
afternoon.
basically, my question is like, we can become a facilitator. We can help children, like doing meditation, being a mentor. But how can we like start their willingness to accept us as a facilitator, and how can we start that? The first point, how to start that with them? Can you throw some light on that?
I think first it's about us understanding how to do it. So it's about us really going through a little bit of that training, of the coaching, of how to bring in the metacognition, how to stimulate with the questions, and then to sit down with the children and really explain to them, you know, we're going to try something different. How open are all of you to try this with me? And to get them on board with you to experiment, and to get them on board with that sort of feeling of psychological safety that they can actually start communicating much more with the facilitator, teacher, trainer, coach, and to open up more with the emotional intelligence, to open up more with the metacognition, to open up more all of this way of communicating. And start that way, Dr. Radke. I would really open up that communication with them.
Actually, I also want the same, but nowadays they are so acquainted to being alone together with social media, so much of exposure to social media that the cases of depressions are also rising up. Some children are not even like able to speak up what the problem is with them.
Yes. And let's go back to the pandemic, everybody. A lot of the kids during the pandemic, they missed out on crucial socializing, and especially in those years of development. So, Dr. Radke, the teachers that have kids who were in the pandemic between, let's say, the age of 5 and 12, they now are coming into teens and late teens. And those are the kids with the most socializing problems because they don't know how to.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that.
Right. And there again, it's how we can start to help them to develop those social skills. And again, this way of communicating and getting them more autonomous and getting them sharing and getting them into that observing themselves. It's about helping them to have a toolkit to manage themselves. And I think, yes, Dr. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Radke, because it's worldwide. It's not just where you are, it's worldwide. And especially those kids who suffered in the pandemic. And let's not forget, everybody, the kids between 0 and 7 in the pandemic, a lot of what was happening was coming into the subconscious brain. So one of their baselines in life is humans are dangerous. I shouldn't be connecting with people. I shouldn't touch. I shouldn't be near them. I shouldn't speak because I've been locked in and this is life and I'm safe here. So their safety baseline is yes, or Ollie, yes, or I'm dangerous. Yes, I'm a danger to everybody else. Horrendous what we went through in the pandemic on a very subconscious level. Absolutely. So we're moving into a little bit of wrapping up. I do want to say thank you, all of you, for being here. And there is actually a free e-course, if any of you are interested, just to tap into the way that we communicate and a few changes that you can apply in daily life, in teaching, in learning, everything. So the e-course is absolutely free. Elsa, is there any way that you can put that into the chat box for everybody, just as the link? Because I'm never sure if that link is fine. We also have a conference where teachers, trainers, we come together from across the world. We've already got over 100 participants coming in May. It's going to be in Sitges, which is near Barcelona. So if any of you are interested, I've just applied for the ICF accreditation as well. So it will be accredited by the ICF. And by the way, some amazing speakers. We've got one of those speakers, no, actually two of those speakers I can see here now. We've got Lonnie with us, we've got Ollie with us. Both of them will be speaking at the conference. I'm very excited about that. And we are putting together some training, which will be at a very low cost. So we're trying to organize a group of teachers, trainers, leaders, learners, parents across the world to come into this neuro resilience, which is almost like a school package with coaching, neuroscience, heart science, to really help all of you to come into this style of communication. Also, I offer consultancy, mentoring, as we've done today, that if you want some private sort of consulting with pleasure, absolutely. And we do have the certificate for today. I think we've just, Elsa, would you put that also in the chat? And if you are interested in the course, you've got the QR code and the link on the bottom there with the NeuroHeart Education Lovable app. And talking about lovables, here he is, my cuddly boy coming in for cuddles. He's a little bit late today. He normally comes in earlier. So, certificate of attendance if you would like. And what we're going to do, we're really going to ask you to lodge your interest. So if you're interested in the course, and then when we've got the group together, we will then be looking for the brain-friendly time for that course to sort all of you across the world, because I know there's some over in India, Pakistan, and then there's others over in the other corner of the earth, and we'll try to see if we can find some brain-friendly times for the group. So thank you for being here. Thank you for participating and for all of your comments and questions. I personally do think it's about being positive about the future, in spite of everything. I know we're living in a very tense moment on Earth, all of us. I think we're all feeling it, no matter where we are. And yes, I think it's about holding that vision of the future that we all want to create. And you as educators are absolutely key. You really are. You are the ones who are going to be stimulating and provoking and bringing all of this positivity to your learners. So thank you, everybody. Shall we, I think we can turn on the microphones. I'm not sure. Would you like to turn on the microphone so we can all say goodbye together?
Goodbye.
Okay.
Bye,
Yes,
everybody.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
namaste.
Bye, everybody.
Shining.
Take care. Have a good Sunday.
Keep
Bye.
shining.
Bye. Bye.